Yes.
And second rule is you have to maintain a notebook specifically for biology. And it sounds trivial, but it's very important, and you will understand the importance of it by the end. Okay. So let's start with some basic introduction. Let's try to know each other. So I'll first introduce myself, and we'll take 10 minutes to know each other. Okay. So my name is Rahul Kushwaha, and I'm one of the faculties, as you know, at Learnivio. I teach biology here. And in life, apart from teaching at Learnivio, I am a biological researcher, and I work in developmental biology and embryology, also in cell and molecular biology at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. It is a research institute that's based in Mumbai, and it's also the institute from where I completed my graduation degree, like post-graduation degree, okay, in research only. So tell me something about, like, just in 3 or 4 sentences, your name, and apart from, like, just your name and what you really like, apart from, don't say like biology or chemistry or physics, apart from that. So I'll just so that to avoid confusion, I'll take names and we'll start in that order. So let's start with Afia.
Yes, sir.
I hope you don't mind, like, if someone does not want to introduce themselves, they can write it in the chat. I will appreciate if you do, because at the end of the day, you have to discuss with each other. So you are going to be batchmates now, and I'm going to be one of the faculties you will be learning with. Okay. Okay. So Afia, over to you.
My name is Afia Jabbar, and I am from Dev Samaj Modern School.
Nice. And what do you like, Afia? You are mute, Afia. I think your microphone got mute.
Sir, I love writing.
Okay. So what sort of writing? Are you a poet, or you write articles, blogs? What? Right.
Sir, I love writing stories.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So if you are good at writing, writing is a good skill that you all should have in life, because whatever you want to become, writing good is an important part of it. Even if you're a doctor, you're a scientist, you're a biologist, you're a professor, you have to write grants, proposals, fundings, books, right? Okay. So thank you, Afia. Nida.
So my name is Nida Momin. I'm from Hyderabad, and I study in Indian International School. And I usually enjoy playing video games a lot.
That's good. So what kind of video games you like playing?
Like the action video games, or
oh, nice, like the PUBG kind of, Call of Duty.
Yes, yeah, PUBG, Call of Duty, or some
games
games on PS4.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So just because you mentioned gaming, it's not good that you should just not stick to screens, but good strategic games, it has been proven that it improves your cerebral capacity. It improves your neurological capacity to process things. One should have such an activity in life. Okay, good. Omer, are you there, Omer?
Hello, sir.
Yes, hello.
My name is Umar Abdullah, and I'm from Riyadh. I'm studying in International Indian School, and my favorite thing to do is drawing in free time, just because I like comics.
Okay, so you draw. So what kind of drawing? Like, do you paint or do you sketch?
Most of the time, sketch.
Sketch. So you are a pen artist, pen or a pencil. So is it carbon or ink?
Ink, sir.
Ink. Oh, nice. Okay, good. So what do you mostly like to draw? Is it?
Sir, horror things.
Oh, that's one very specific genre.
Yes.
Good, good. So I hope that you must have drawn some very artistic ghosts by now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's go to Reba.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Reba. Will you please introduce, just introduce yourself. We are introducing each other.
My name is Reba, and I am from Alalia International Indian School, and I like reading and playing games.
Like reading. So what is your favorite genre in reading? What are you reading these days?
I was reading A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khalid Hossein.
Nice, nice. Good read, good read. Okay, so it's very interesting and it's very good to know that, you know, we have readers, writers, artists, and gamers among us studying biology together. Okay, so I think we all can bring something to the table as we will go ahead and we'll try to cover the syllabus. Okay, so to begin with, let me just tell you a few things about biology. So one thing which is, so there are few things which are good about biology and few things which are not good about biology as a subject. So what's good, and I being a biologist, I'm saying this. Oh, I should not use red. I don't like red. Yes. So what's good about biology is that it's the study of life. And as we all know, we all are living organisms. So the best field of science where you can study life is biology, right? And this is my only standout point for biology, that we living systems are studying living systems and studying about us and also about other living systems. And that is what makes human as a species interesting and important. You know, not important from like a ecological point of view, but important from, you know, being able to destroy or conserve it, both. So human beings are able to cause destruction to a level which no other species can do. Also, human beings are capable of conserving or protecting with their evolved brain to a level which again no other species can do. But the bad thing about biology is, bad thing from the point of view of students, is that you have to learn a lot, right?
Yes.
It's called the science of exceptions. Like there is no one single law in biology that does not have an exception. Now, this is something very irritating and frustrating to students at times, but not to me now. And it will also not be to you by the end of, you know, our this, the whole session we are together for. So we have to learn a lot, but though it's not, it's only a bad thing because we actually try to learn biology. Let me tell you, you can never learn biology. Biology is not for learning. It's just for understanding that what is within the biological reach and what makes logical sense and what does not make logical sense. If you are able to understand and distinguish between these two statements in any field of biology, starting from cell to tissues to organ to living systems to whole ecology, even to whole biodiversity, you go to any level, there's always two questions. Does it make sense in the light of proofs or not? Okay. Even the hypothesis that we give in biology, which we called as, you know, laws of Mendel or the theory of evolution, they are not theory because we just study about it. If they do not have a backing in terms of proofs, and those proofs has to be molecular, biological, you know, physical or chemical, then it's not biology. So what I am going to teach you about is that you have to start developing this caliber of learning less and understanding more. Do you understand this? Because you can
Yes.
never learn everything in biology that I can. So me after spending, like we start spending proper time in biology from our class 11th, right? And that for me was somewhere like, it's been more than a decade now that I am spending quite some time in biology every day. And even after a decade, I can tell you that you cannot learn biology. So let's not try to mug it up. Okay. If you want to pass your biology exams, another good thing is biology is very easy to pass. you know, even those who are not interested in biology and had biology as an additional subject, or people who have PCMB but they want to become an engineer, you know, in my class I have seen them just passing biology, because the grandeur theme of biology is very simple to understand. You go, you write some things, like someone, I think, who's the writer among us? Just say me. There was a writer among us, right? Who's good at writing?
So me.
Yes. So sorry, it will take me some time to, you know, learn everything about everyone, but it's good to know. So I remember that is right. So if you're a good writer, you can write good biological answers, you know, and every biological answer can start with the, you know, every answer starts with the and with the full stop. Beach mein aap kuch bhi likhenge, if it's making even 10% of sense, you will get marks and you will pass. So don't worry about passing in biology. I'll make sure that everyone does that, but that's not the motto here. The motive of these classes is to make you understand biology, so that whenever, if I even give you a topic which you have never studied in biology, you can discuss about it in the light of proofs that what makes sense and what does not make sense. Okay, does it sounds fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, second thing. So second thing that we are going to discuss, I'm going to tell you, is that you have to maintain a copy, okay, a notebook. And there are two things that you have to rigorously follow in that notebook. Leave the first 3 pages of the notebook blank, okay? And on that 3 pages, you have to follow this one scheme. So suppose this is your page, I'm just helping you with this. You have to make a division. On one side, you will write terminology, and on the other side, you will write meaning. Okay, every good subject starts with understanding the terminology of that subject. So every subject has a language. Biology has a specific language. And if you understand the words in biology properly, 25 to 30% of biology is related to the word we use to describe phenomena. You know? So just for an example, you must have studied the word cyto, right? 9th, 10th mein?
Yes.
Where have you studied cyto? I think everyone can give me one example where they have studied cyto.
Cytoplasm.
Yes.
Cytoplasm.
Cytoplasm and cytokinesis, something like that you have studied. You are going to study some words which, if you have not studied: cytotoxic, cytoskeletal, okay, cytosol. You understand? In
Yes.
all these words, cytoplasm, cytokinesis, cytotoxic, cytoskeletal, cytosol, the word cyto means cell. Is it clear? So if you start understanding the terms, that cyto means cell, and then the other word is again a terminology that you have to understand. So for example, if there comes a question of 1 mark, a 1 marker question is there, which is define cytokinesis. Now you already know, I'm just giving an example for you to understand. You already know that cyto means cell, and kinesis, I'm going to tell you, means division. Kinesis means division. So what does cytokinesis means? This term. Process of division of a cell where one cell forms 2 daughter cells is called cytokinesis. You understand? So that's why you have to leave first 3 pages of your copy blank and just use it for this. We are going to make a dictionary of biology for ourselves, so that whenever you find anything difficult, you can refer to it. Okay, so this is the second important rule. Apart from that, there is no rule. Feel free to interrupt me anytime, even when I'm speaking. you just say something. You can interrupt me, ask questions wherever you feel like you are not understanding anything. It should not be like, because I am the teacher, so whatever I am speaking, you are taking that as the word of an expert or the word written on stones. No, we are going to discuss things, and I'm going to tell you why that thing makes sense. So you have all the rights to argue if you don't find anything logical, question, and if you don't find my answer satisfactory, debate. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let's just begin. Okay, so because today we are going to start with biology, and the course of my classes will be like, every topic will start from the basic and will move towards the more advanced concept regarding the same topic. So we'll start from the level of NCERT and we'll go till the levels where you are quizzed or you are asked questions in your entrances. Is it clear? So there are many things that I'm going to tell you that it's not in your NCERT, but it's important for you to know and remember. So what you can do is, on those concepts, you can make a star with some other color. It's just like whatever is your way to tell that this is something which you have to be more careful about, because that is asked in entrances. Okay, so I think all of you, let me ask you first, all of you are planning to, first priority is to crack NEET and become a doctor, right? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
No.
Yes.
Okay, no. So there was a no. Who was the no? What is your first priority? It's good to know.
I don't know. I haven't decided anything. I'm just confused and looking for new options or searching for new stuff.
Okay. So you have not decided, but there must be something vaguely in your mind. So, but you will be sitting for entrances, right?
Sorry?
You will be sitting for entrance exams? Medical entrance
Yes.
exams? Yes. So which means even if it's not your first priority, it is one of your priorities.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just assume that our first focus and goal, anyone else whose first priority is not cracking medical entrance? Everyone else wants to crack medical entrance, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, good. So our first motive will be to prepare you to the level of reasoning, logics, and understanding. And with lot of reasoning, logics, and discussion that we will do in the class, you will not need to mug up things. It will be just on your, tip of the tongue. So let's begin. So we are going to study biology. And it's very interesting whenever I ask this question in all of my classes, when I start the class, I always like starting the course of biology because that's the most interesting point. So tell me, what you have to give me one word. It's a one-word answer for all of you. And again, one word that comes to your mind when you hear or read the term biology. Afia. Or anyone can speak.
Sir, living.
So the word living comes to your mind when you hear or read biology. Okay, just one word. Next, anyone else? Anyone can speak. Just unmute and speak. And if you
Cells.
don't have disturbance in the background, keep it unmuted. Yes, Omar.
Cell.
You're thinking about the word just right now. Huh?
Uh-huh.
Are you thinking about the word right now?
Yes.
Don't improvise. So just, okay. By the time Omar is thinking, anyone else? I said biology. What comes to your mind? It has to be a rapid fire. Don't spoil it. Yes.
Study of life.
Riva. Study of life is not one word. It's 3 words. It's a sentence. One word. Come on.
Growth.
Growth. Great. Yes. Next. Just fire it one after the other.
Behavior.
Behavior. Very interesting. Yes. Next.
Sense.
Cells or sense?
Sense.
Sense.
cells.
Okay, cells. Okay. Cool. Living, growth, behavior, cells. So let's see the range you are going from. So you're starting from the fundamentals. Someone is thinking about cells when I say biology, you know, they're like, oh, biology, acha matlab, we have to study about cell now. And someone is thinking about living. Everything that's living comes under biology. Growth. And of course, when this growth is coming, this growth is with respect to living only, right? And then behavior, yes, very interesting. Behavior is one issue topic that we will discuss about a lot. Okay. So what do we mean by living? Now, because these are 4 points given by you know. Now, first in the next 5 minutes, I'll make you discuss your own points. Then my teaching will come in. So what do we mean by living? And the one whose word was this will speak in the last. Okay. So I think it was Afia's word, right?
Yes, sir.
So Nida, Omar, and Riba, what do you understand by living? What is living? Simple
Breathing.
English, no technical jargons, and just explain what is living. Yes, someone was speaking, sorry. See, you have to start thinking now. In my classes, you're not going to get knowledge for free. You have to participate. You have to deserve it. And knowledge will be given to all who deserve at Rahul Kushwaha's class. Come on. Even if you say absurd thing, I'll be happy because you're participating.
Sir, anything that move?
Anything that moves, you know. I was telling you that even if you say something absurd, I will be happy and I am happy. Anything that moves is very absurd. No offenses, Afia. It's a compliment, okay? So anything that moves is a living. So according to Afia, cars, bikes, aeroplanes, molecules of the atmosphere, and even sand dunes are living, right, Afia?
No, sir.
No. Okay, nice. So please don't get offended in my classes. We are going to just discuss things. Okay, we have Abhinav joining in. Welcome, Abhinav. Welcome to the classes. Abhinav, can you speak and participate?
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So Abhinav, what comes to your mind when you listen or hear the word biology? Just one word that comes to your mind.
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat? Your voice was breaking.
I'm asking, what is the one word which comes to your mind when you hear or read the word biology? So these are the 4
Sir,
answers.
it comes about organisms.
So the word that comes to your head is organisms. Is it?
Sorry, sir.
Is it organisms, the word? Am I not clear to everyone? Others, please confirm.
Clear, sir. Clear, sir.
No, sir, you are clear.
Okay, okay, fine. So Abhinav's word is organism. Fine. Okay, so Afia said anything that moves. Anyone else? What do you mean by living? Because see, this is the basic, I'm putting the fundamental for your first chapter of NCERT. Yes, Omar.
Reproduction.
Omar says if something is living, it has to reproduce, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, growth?
Let's come to the reproduction part first, because see, Omar, if something is not reproducing, does it mean that it's not living?
No.
For that matter, in my good senses, I believe none of us, because being students, have reproduced till now in our life, which makes us dead or zombies. Only our parents are living and our grandparents are living. Just think about these things. So I'm just, as a teacher, first what I'll do is I'll rip your answers then I'll compliment for you, and then I'll tell you what you have to learn. Okay, next. Someone said growth. Who said growth?
So me.
Okay. So according to you, everything that grows is living.
Yes, sir.
So which means,
No, sir.
okay, so we'll come to the counter discussion later, but let's just write down things. Growth. So which means, so there are certain crystals that grow on their own. If you will go to any cave system, inside the caves, there are salt crystals that grow on their own. Are they living? They
No,
can even grow up to feet, you know, like 2, 3, 4 feet long crystals are growing.
Sir,
They are not.
growth by cell division.
Cell division. Okay, we'll come to that. So now you are improvising and defending. Good. So this is what discussion is. You have to defend your points. Okay, let's move further. Anyone else apart from growth? We'll come back to all of this. Those who have not spoken, what do you understand by living?
An organism which breathes in and breathes out or does the basic life functions.
Breathes in and breathes out. You know, like
Yeah,
our
or
air
does
conditioners.
no,
No. Okay.
or does the basic life functions like cellular respiration.
So
And
Nidha is playing very safe here, you know, because she has seen 3 of her batchmates being absurd. So she's like, okay, let me play safe, you know, that breathes in, breathes out, and let's put some very non-specific terms like do the basic life functions. You know, if you write this in your exam, you're going to get full marks. Great. So you're prepared for that. But in my classes, we are going to go beyond. So you said some basic life functions. I'll just write it and then we'll come back to it. And you also said what? Breathes in and breathes out.
yes,
Okay. Okay. Next. Who has not spoken? We are 5 and here are 4 points. I think Abhinav has not spoken. Abhinav.
Sir, where like metabolism takes place.
See, he's even playing more safer. Yes, what?
Metabolism takes place in the organism, so we can say that the things which are living, their metabolism takes place.
Yes, metabolism. So why I did this exercise is because it happens every time with every batch and it's very interesting. This is what human behavior is like. So please note down, everyone. When we started discussing living, just note down what we started with. Anything that moves. Because there was no template, there was no pressure. So, you know, first person coming and saying, okay, living, oh, if something moves, it's living. And then you realize, oh, this is not going to stand long in the debate. So we come to reproduction, growth, basic life function, and then to metabolism. So we are becoming more and more and more specific and proof oriented. This is how a logical debate in science takes place. We start with something, we either accept or discard, and then we move forward. We go in depth. Again, we put something, we accept or discard, and we move forward. This is how learning takes place. Okay, very good points kept by you all. So let's just start with this first chapter. So your first chapter in NCERT, which is not very important from your entrance point of view, or even from your board's point of view, but is very important from for your foundations point of view. You know, so the first chapter in NCERT is, I think it's about life processes, right? There is a term that it uses, life processes. Now we have discussed previously that anything that moves, which means movement. So let's first talk about movement. Okay, and I'll tell you there are 2 things. So first tell me if how many of you think that movement is a sure short way to say that something is living? Do you all agree that if something moves, it's living?
no,
No? Then
No.
what do you think?
Because I think that way because plants don't move. They don't move from their places. And
Plants don't move. So,
yeah, they grow, but they don't move.
okay. So you think movement is just the, so movement are of different types. Let me again, now let's go into the complexity. Now let's try to learn. Movement can be inside a cell. What moves inside a cell? Is there a movement inside a cell? It's called molecular movements. Diffusion is one example of a molecular movement where one substance moves from its high concentration region to its low concentration region. Okay. Diffusion of, let's say, water molecule inside a cell. Another type of movement could be related to growth or physical activities. Plants don't move, but that movement is the one which they don't move from. Like if you plant a plant at some place, it will not start moving and go to some other place and get itself planted there. It will stay there. But apart from it being stationary, it's not like it's not moving. Have you ever noticed leaves of the plant during the day and the night? Anyone? Anyone who has noticed this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What have you noticed, Abhinav?
Sir, in the daytime, the plants are always bent towards the sunlight, whereas at night they're always straight.
My goodness. Are you sure about it? This was not the answer I was expecting, but you are then talking about very specific plants like sunflower. You're right. Sunflower actually, follows the sun. But even in sunflower species, not all sunflowers do that. But the movement I'm saying is about leaves. Is Abhinav there? I think he just cropped out. I think his internet is not stable. Anyways, Abhinav, you're back. Can you hear me, Abhinav?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the movement I'm talking about is of the leaves. Have you noticed the leaves? Because if you say bending of the plant itself, then it's only possible for plants who actually have a flexible stem. Like sunflower does that. And in that also not all the species do that. Okay. What I am asking you is about the leaves. Have you seen that during the daytime, the leaves are all very erect to their, like, so this is the leaf joined to a stem or a branch. Okay. So during the daytime, it's very much inflated and looks like very fresh because it has to increase the surface area to gather as much sunlight as it can for photosynthesis. Whereas during the night, the same leaf, if you'll go and observe, will not be very, like, it will look something like this. It just kind of shrinks or just bends down. Have you noticed this phenomena? No one has noticed this phenomena? Okay. You all must have heard about a plant called Mimosa pudica.
Yes,
It's called touch me not plant. How many of you know about touch me not plant? All of you? No one?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you know about touch me not plant. What happens if you touch the leaf of a touch me not plant? So normally it has compound leaves. So there are a lot of leaves like this, okay, arranged in this kind of a fashion. So this is a touch me not plant. If you touch it, okay, then it goes, all these leaves closes. So they close and it becomes something like this. It shrinks. So basically, if you see it from this angle, the leaves will be like this, but when you touch it, the leaf will close. Okay, so everything will just fold. The leaf will fold. You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
So is this not a movement? Is my question. Is this a movement or not? The movement where you can actually control your leaves and its direction, which direction will face the sun in the daytime, and in the night time it rotates. So this face which is facing the sun of the leaf rotates and goes towards the downside in most of the trees during the night when they are not photosynthesizing. Also, when you touch a Mimosa pudica, the leaves closes. All the leaves close as if it can feel your touch and it does not want you to touch it. So is it not movement? Yes or no? Will you consider it a movement or not?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
It is a movement. So there can be movement for growth and physical activity. But the movement that we associate with all the time, whenever we talk about movement, I'm just going to erase this thing because I need this space. The movement that we always associate is the movement which is used for locomotion. Now, what does the word locomotion means? Locomotion means to move from one reference point to other. So many living organisms cannot locomote, like they cannot do locomotion. Like plants cannot do locomotion, but still there's a lot of molecular movement happening in them and a lot of growth related or physical activity related movement happening. Also, there is movement of food and nutrients inside of plants, right? From the root to the leaf tip, something moves inside, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we know that movement is also a feature of living things. So movement is a life process. Okay, but what is the question here, and what comes in an entrance or even in your board says there are two things that you have to understand. I'm going to use another color for this. First thing is, if something is a life process, by life process we mean that if that process is done or carried forward by a living system. If living system can do that, it's a life process. But second thing is, if something is a characteristic property of life, there's a difference between the two. Okay. So if I ask you, is movement done by living systems? So what will be your answer?
Yes.
Yes, movement is done by living systems, like humans move and a lot of different kind of movements happen. Is locomotion, so is movement a life process? What do you think? Can you consider movement as a life process?
No.
No. Why not? Why not movement is a life process? You already know the answer. Movement. So I'm going to use, if it's a life process, yes or no, we'll mark a tick. So movement is not a life process because all living things do not move. And if it's not a life process, it is just a process which is done by some living systems like animals. And when I use the term movement here, it's majorly this movement which your NCERT is concerned about. But in your entrance, if there's a question that comes, is molecular movement a life process? Then what will be your answer? Is molecular movement a life process?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Don't just commit to yes very fast. Think about it. Now, if I have cautioned you, does not mean you have given a wrong answer. I have just said that think about it. So molecular movement is a life process. Just read about this. I'm saying molecular movement is a life process. So all of you think yes?
Yes.
No. Because molecular movement can even happen within a beaker. In a beaker, there is a reaction going on. And there are two types of molecules, the orange one and the purple one. Now, in order to react, they have to move. Move, come closer to each other, react. So they are randomly moving everywhere, right? So molecules are moving inside the beaker as well. You understand? But if I'll rephrase. So molecular movement is also not a life process. Do you understand why it's not a life process? You just don't have to remember or mug it. Do you really understand the logic behind it? Yes. Locomotion is clearly not the life process. And if something is not a life process, it cannot be a characteristic property of life. But the otherwise is possible. Something can be something like if something is a characteristic property of life, then it has to be followed or it has to be performed by every living system on the planet. That is what you mean by characteristic property. Okay. So locomotion is clearly not a life process. Molecular movement is also not a life process, and movement for growth and physical activities, can this be a life process? This is very easy. Anyone, can this be a life process? The third type of movement? What, yes or no? You cannot just
Yes.
Yes, is it a life process?
Yes.
No.
No.
Because movement for growth is even like non-living than these two. Because for physical activities, even robots move. They can move, lift their arms, but they're not living. For growth, sand moves from one place to another and gets deposits, and the sand dune grows. So in a desert, it's very difficult to find roots because the sand dunes keep changing with the tide of the wind. Because one sand dune grows at another place when sand moves for growth. So in general, movement of any form is not a characteristic property of life, and it is also not a life process. So because if something is living, it may not be having any of this kind of movement. So which kind of movement actually will be a characteristic property of life process? Because in entrances, you have been tricked, like students have been tricked with this question, where one form of movement is actually a characteristic property of life. And what is it? If you say the movement of blood in our veins, then in the very similar fashion, oil moves in an engine. Or when you sip your coffee from a straw, coffee moves inside the straw. So now you have to start thinking as a biologist that what kind of movement I am talking about here. So if someone says molecular movement, not enough. But if in the entrance there is a line, so note down this line, molecular interaction inside a cell. Is it a life process? Is it a life process now? Now is the right time to say yes. In
Yes.
sync. Good, Riva. Yes. So this actually does not come under movement in your NCRT, but in entrances it has been asked that molecular movement / molecular interactions inside a cell is a characteristic property of life. This sentence is wrong or right. The question was something like that. But let me just tell you, they are tricking you because this is not a part of movement. This actually is a part of metabolism. Okay. For that, we have to clearly understand what is metabolism and how can we differentiate it with the movement. So everyone is clear with the movement part, why movement cannot be a life process. And if
Yes.
it is not a life process, there is no point that it can be a characteristic property of life. So movement is out of the discussion now. Anyone who wants to debate or wants to say that you don't agree with this, wants to present something else? Everyone agrees, right? Makes sense. Just don't just agree because I'm saying you have to agree. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, someone also used the word reproduction. Okay, let's come to reproduction now. Is reproduction a life process?
Yes.
No, sir.
Reproduction is not a life process.
It is a life process.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So reproduction is a life process. Because what do we mean by reproduction? Reproduce. There are two words. One is re and one is produce. Reproduction. What does it mean? So reproduction means to make copies which looks similar to the parents. So every species makes its copies of offsprings whose adult form looks like the adult form of the parents. Okay. Now, if you're going to ask me that the offspring of butterfly, so butterfly looks something like this, right? And the offspring of butterfly looks something like this, caterpillar. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So this doesn't looks like this. Here, that's why you have to always remember that we only compare adult form with adult form. And this is not an adult form. Is it clear? So for reproduction, you have to make copies which look similar to the parents in their adult form. And that's called reproduction. Can anyone give me, so who said that it's not a life process?
Me, sir.
Yes, Abhinav. So can you give me one example where a non-living system reproduces? Think, you may be right. So you have to think, just don't give up on any of your things. So science and biology tells you to be logical and defend. And when you understand that you are right or wrong, modify your statements accordingly. So does any non-living system reproduce?
No, sir.
No, right? So which means, which means?
That reproduction is a life process.
Yes, it is a feature of life. But is it the defining characteristic feature of life? So we all agree that reproduction is a life
No,
process
sir.
because only living things reproduce. But is it the defining property of life?
No, sir.
No, it's not the defining property
No,
of
sir.
life. Why?
It's not that important.
Yes.
It
Sir,
is
because
important.
there may be infertile human beings.
Yes. So defining property of life. Exactly. You are right. So it's not a defining property of life. Because there are many organisms who come to an age. So there is an age called reproductive maturity in every organism. Every organism has to mature enough in order to reproduce. So by the time they are not mature for reproduction, it does not mean that they are not living. They are living. And even after coming to that age, many organisms do not reproduce. They are infertile. And some natural examples of that is like infertile humans or cross-breeded organisms. So infertile organisms which cannot reproduce. Have you heard of mule? Mule is one very famous example,
Yes, sir.
which is given in NCERT. Mule is a crossbreed of a horse and a donkey. Right? Now, we will learn this in detail, but just know that horse and donkeys belong to different species. If you don't know what is a species, don't worry, we'll come to that. But you just have to know that horse and donkey belongs to different species. And when different species reproduce, the offspring is biologically infertile. Can anyone think of the reason why this is happening?
Sir, because the number of chromosomes may differ.
Exactly. So the answer is the number of chromosomes are incompatible, but we'll come to that. So why the number of chromosomes is only affecting the reproducibility, but not other things? Because it can breathe, it can form organs, it can form a body structure, it can form everything that was in horse and donkey. But why it cannot reproduce? It has blood, bones, everything that horse and donkey has. So why is it the only thing which is affected is reproduction? Have you thought this? So does anyone know the answer if they want to discuss it here? Why only reproduction is affected in cross species breeding and not any other function is affected? Yes, a big sigh. Why only reproduction is affected? And it's a question that is important, but we'll come to this later. Okay, apart from mule, I think you should be very. Have you heard of Liger or Tigon? Or no one has heard of Liger or Tigon?
Sir, I have.
You have. What is a Liger and what is a Tigon?
Sir, a liger is a cross between a lion and a tiger.
Okay.
In which the male is the male is the lion and the female is the tiger, whereas it is opposite in the tiger.
Okay, so Liger and Tigon both, yeah, you're right. They are cross breeds of lion and a tiger. The only difference is which is male and which is female. So the father. So in Liger or in Tigon. So I just because what you said, Abhinav, are you sure that it's always true? So let me give you this as one home assignment. Every one of you has to go back and search a little about Liger and how many Ligers do we have in the world and where are they? Because they are very carefully generated. You know, they cannot be born in nature because tigers and lions cannot reproduce in nature because they have very different territorial behavior. So how many Ligers and how many Tigons do we have in the world? And this information is very easily available. And why do we name it Liger and Tigon? Okay. And there's a very interesting thing that you will understand. And if you don't understand, I will just tell you. So will you all go and find about this Liger and Tigon?
Yes.
And apart from Liger and Tigon, other cross species organisms. If you were to make one cross species organism, what species will you choose? Do you see a trend here? Horse, donkey, tiger, lion. What is the trend? What is the trend here? Don't you think horse and donkeys, even if they are different, they are similar in some accords?
Yes.
Yes, what is that similarity? What is that similar accord?
They have the same body position, same, they both have.
They have the same?
They look kind of similar to each other.
So your voice is breaking, Riva. Similar what? Hello, are you speaking? Anyone else? What is the similarity do you see? Do you see a trend here? Horse, donkey, liger, tigon?
Sir, similar body structure and feeding habits.
One is, yes, one is similar body structure and one is similar nutritional requirements, right? And similar ecological niche. What do I mean by ecological niche is horse survives on things which donkeys also survive on, grasslands. And most of the time their behaviors are same when they are similar, not same, but similar when they live in herds. Whereas both tiger and lions are predators, apex predators. You know, it will be very interesting to see a crossbreed species between a hyena and a donkey. But do you think it's possible?
No,
Why it's not
No.
possible? Why it's
because
not
hyena is
predator?
a carnivore and donkey is they eat
Yes.
grass.
Yes. But suppose you have to do this. See, this is interesting to discuss because while discussing, you will understand the basic of how crossbreed species work, cross species breeds work. And second, when later on in our classes, when we'll study about the chromosomal patterning, it will come there. So I'm just priming you for that. Suppose you want to make a crossbreed of hyena and donkey. How do you think these crossbreeds are made? Just think as a biology student and think how do you think a horse and a donkey crossbreeds must be like happening in nature. So if I keep a male horse and a female donkey in the same cage, will they reproduce on their own?
No.
No, they will never reproduce on their own. Never ever, because the whole act of reproduction comes with a lot of behavioral complexity. You know, have you seen birds where males are doing these fancy dance just to, lure females and impress them and bring them towards the nest, and then they reproduce? In every species, almost every species on the planet, apart from human beings, the male counterparts are more colorful and beautiful. Have you noticed that in biology? So you people are not watching Discovery much, right?
No.
Okay, so let me tell you, if you see birds like the kingdom, or if you see any other organism where courtship behavior is there, so one thing that you have to note down is called courtship behavior. Someone said that behavior is the term that comes to their mind. I think it was Omar, it was you who said that behavior is the term that comes to your mind when you think about biology. So courtship behavior is a very interesting behavioral phenomenon in biology, where males do all sorts of different interesting activities to impress females. And it will be very, just like for you to improve your knowledge of ecology and behavior. So I'll just give you a few examples. So birds dance around their female counterparts. First, they make mating calls. So have you heard these cuckoo calls? The very symbolic cuckoo calls, can you understand what I'm saying? The very sweet melodic calls given by a bird, cuckoo.
Yes.
So those calls, most of the times, they are mating calls. So it's male trying to tell the female that, see, I'm waiting here, come and let's go on a date. And if a female in the nearby vicinity hears the call, comes and first gauges the male. So the female will just come and sit at a distance and do nothing. She's like, okay, I'm here. Now it's your turn. The ball is in your court. Try to impress me. And then the bird starts dancing and doing all sorts of, activities with the feathers. And if the female is impressed, then they get married. They take the vow. Anyways, for a penguin, it's even more interesting. What are penguins?
Yes.
What are penguins?
Um,
Mammals, reptiles, amphibians,
birds.
birds. Penguins are also birds, right? Very good. So penguins, what they do is the male penguin. So every season there is it's a kind of a gathering of all the male penguins to the shore of a water body during the winters when there is sun, and all the females, and what they do is they make their nest. They make their nest with pebbles and rocks. So the penguin who will manage to find all the beautiful and very roundish pebbles of that shore will get the best female. Okay. So the females just come and judge that how good the nest is made. And in order to impress the females, what penguins do is they even steal from each other's nest. So if a penguin sees that this person has managed to gather a very beautiful pebble in his nest, he just waits for that penguin to go in search of another pebble and will just go and steal. So this is something behavioral. It's hardwired in penguins' behavior that they have to find the best pebble possible on that shore just to impress the females. Okay. So one thing is that the courtship behaviors are very different. So normally a horse and donkey will never reproduce. That was my whole point I wanted to prove. So how do you think mule came into existence? Anyone? We have not cloned it. It's not like we have taken sperm and egg and then did an in vitro fertilization and cloned it in the laboratory. So what we actually did, humans did something, right? You agree? But we don't know the
Yes.
process. So this comes in your animal biotechnology. If anyone is interested in animal biotechnology, you should know this. It also comes in your NEET examinations. So what is the difference between a clone and a cross species breed? So how do you think mule was made? Any answers? No answers. Reba, are you speaking something? Because I'm not able to hear you.
No, sir.
Okay. So what basically we do is we take sperms from the male, and sometimes we take eggs from the female, and then in a petri dish we try to fertilize it. So there is something called, now we're talking about some molecular biology, and this is going to be important from your examination point of view. This is cellular biology. So we are not strictly sticking to the NCERT layout, but it's important. So there is a sperm. What is a sperm? A sperm is a single cell. Okay. This is a very bad way to make a sperm. I'm so sorry. So let's say there's a cell, and then there is flagella. So this is a sperm, and the sperm cell has a nucleus. Okay, and the top of sperm, there is a part called acrosome. You can write it down because it comes in your entrances. So sperm, and the sperm has a tail. And eggs are very bigger as compared to sperms, sometimes 100 folds bigger. And this also has a nucleus and this membrane. And this membrane layer, so this is the membrane of the, now the egg is called a oocyte in biology or ovum. Okay. Is everyone on the same page with me? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this membrane of sperm is not exposed. It has a lot of other layers which are named different. So this is a very detailed part of your chapter reproduction. Human reproduction as well as animal reproduction is there. So we will again come back to it, but for today's sake of discussion, what I want to tell you is, so there are layers, okay, which any sperm has to cross before it can reach the membrane, the plasma membrane of the oocyte. Both oocyte and sperm are single cells, okay. But to cross all these layers, you know what happens is every species, so the male of every species has certain chemicals filled in its acrosome, which helps in three things. First, get rid of these outer layers. So it secretes some chemicals which actually digests or removes these outer layers for easy access of the sperm. So first thing is, if the sperm and ovum are of the same species, the chemicals will work effectively. So getting through the outer layers. Outer layers are mainly for protective purposes, because you must be knowing, you must have like studied this, that ovum is released from ovaries, right? And from their site of release, they have to move some distance in the female system, and it comes into the womb or the uterus. Everyone on the same page? We will again come back to this, but just say yes or no. Are you understanding it? So ovum has to travel. And because ovum cannot swim like sperm, it cannot use its tail to just waddle itself. So it just rolls like a big rock rolling down the mountain. So it just keeps on rolling and rolling. Okay. And while it's rolling, it should not rupture or disrupt, or no harm should happen or no damage should happen to the membrane, the cell membrane. So that's why a lot of layering of cells and layers, the most important layer is called the corona radiata. It has nothing to do with the coronavirus, just the name is like that. The word corona means something which appears like the surface of sun with spikes. Have you ever seen the surface of sun? Anyone in any picture, Nat Geo, Discovery, any photo? Have you seen the picture of surface of sun? Okay, you must have. Like I'm just assuming you have seen. Okay, we'll discuss about it later. But these layers are for protection, so that ovum can just roll and come to the place where sperm will meet the ovum. So first thing is getting rid of this layer and reaching the membrane. But the most important thing that happens is at the membrane. When one sperm touches the membrane of the ovum at any given point, there is something called species recognition. So there is a process which is called as species recognition. Okay. And it's very interesting biology, how it has developed, that the sperm of a species, suppose it's a human sperm, so it can only gets recognized in a human ovum. So the natural fertilization process can only takes place when this is like the gate where you have to give a password, and only the same species sperm knows the password. Is it clear to everyone? So this species recognition happens at the plasma membrane. And as I told you, donkey and mule are not donkey and horse are not the same species, right? Now I have given you all the hints. Now tell me, how do you think mule ever came into existence? Recognition cannot happen. So normally a horse sperm cannot penetrate a donkey's ovum. or it will fail. The ovum will not allow it to enter. So how do you think it's going inside? Tell me, what can you think of? This is the basics that we are trying to understand currently. So if I give you the job, what will you do? So there's a technique called microinjection. Okay. We take the ovum, we take a very fine needle. This is not that fine in drawing, but I have to make it bigger so that I can show you the sperm inside. And then we poke the ovum and just inject the sperm to get rid of all the password kind of thing. You just make a hole. It's Shawshank Redemption happening. Make a hole in the wall and put the sperm there inside. So it bypasses all the recognition processes, which obviously it was going to fail because it's not of the same species. Now, if I poke any cell, what will happen at the junction where I'm poking? What will happen? What happens when an injection pokes your skin?
Blood comes out.
Blood comes out because what is inside comes out. But what is happening? See your skin as a membrane. What happens to the membrane? It gets ruptured.
Gets penetrated.
Yes, right. It gets penetrated or it gets ruptured. So chances are that we are, what chances? It's true that we are also rupturing the ovum, right?
Yes.
But this is the beauty of gametes or single cells. Cells are very resilient. You know, in all our textbooks, we always study cells as a squishy, wishy substance, which is, you know, onion cell. Have you made that slide where you see onion cells in your class 9, 10th? Have you done that?
Yes.
Or you take a swab from human cheek and then make a spread of it and see the human squamous epithelial cells, right? We do that.
Yes. Yes.
So this thought of cells being very fragile and squishy wishy comes in our head and it stays there. But let me tell you, cell is not that helpless. Cell is actually very powerful a system. You know, the most complex system is cell, one single cell. So what happens is when we poke, and if that poking is not big enough, if we can manage to make a minimal hole, then the cell repairs itself very fast. So the ovum just repair itself within seconds and the sperm has entered. Now, the moment sperm nucleus has entered inside the cell, there is a signal given to the mother, like the ovum nucleus, and everything starts. The process of fertilization starts. So I will just stop here for today's discussion, just to tell you that for cross species breeding, we actually have to manually micro inject the sperm sometimes into the ovum, okay, to get rid of all that biological check post. Do you understand this? So this phenomena we will again come back because it's very important from your entrance point of view. That's why I will bring everything that is important over and over again so that you don't have to mug up. You will just remember through discussions what happened. Okay. So
Okay.
Certain things you must have studied. So actually we were discussing reproduction. So reproduction is a life process, even according to your NCERT and according to the updated syllabus, it's a life process, but it's not the defining property of life because it has exceptions. Okay. And please go and find about other cross species organism. It will help you because in NEET, few questions has come from this topic and also the genetics of this. So we will talk about the genetics later on. Okay.
Yes.
So after the end of, like, as we will progress and as chapters will get finished, you will be able to connect the dots better. So I will appreciate and encourage all of you to not miss the classes. Okay. Please don't miss classes. I'll dictate you things which are important for your board's point of view later on. First, I am priming you with concepts. So we are done with reproduction. What other features do you think should be there in living system? Growth. Someone said growth, right? Let's come to growth to discuss that. Do you think growth is a life process? Tell me. Is growth a life process? No. Umar is saying no, Riba is saying yes. So Umar, why do you think growth is not a life process? Come on, defend yourself. You may be right, you may be wrong, but the important thing is you understood it through discussions. So tell me, why do you think growth is not a life process? Remember, I am saying life process, not defining property of life. Yes, tell me. Just give me reasons. It will help you develop the skill of reasoning, which is very much required in your entrances.
Sir, according.
So you must be thinking, let me just help you with the words, that I have already told you that crystals also grow, sand dunes also grow. So non-living things also grow. That's why growth is not a life process, right?
Yeah, yes.
This is what you're thinking?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So let's go to Reba then. Reba, why do you think growth is a life process? Would you like to help Umar with something that you think?
Because every living thing grows.
Yes. So the point here is non-living things grow. Correct? Yes, they do grow. But to say that something is a life process, we don't have to ask whether non-living things can do it or not. Yes, non-living things can do growth. Very good. But can living things do growth? Yes. Almost. So there is no living thing which is metabolically active and is not growing. But growth after a point of time stops, right? Living things grow. Almost all living things grow. I will use the word all here because when we'll go into some deeper concepts, we'll read about the exceptions, but just know that almost all living things grow. And this is also correct. And if living things do something, that is a life process. Okay. So growth is a life process. Do you understand, Omar?
Yes. Yes,
We're
sir.
talking about life. You are right that non-living things also grow. But this sentence does not, does not allow us to say that it's not a life process. It is a life process, but what it is not a defining characteristic of life. Right, Omar?
Yes, sir.
So defining characteristic of life, you will say no. It is not a defining characteristic of life. It is just a life process. Because why it is not a defining characteristic of life? So what are the evidences in favor of this? What are the proofs in favor of this? That non-living things also grow. So this argument can be used to prove this. And also, living things stop growing. Even humans, after a certain age, we don't grow, right? You know that? We just keep repairing our wear and tear. Some cells die, new cells are formed, but our growth stops. Growth in terms of we becoming bigger, longer, muscular.
Height, sir.
Height or size of our organs, size of our muscles, size of the skin, all of that stops growing after a certain age. And sometimes it goes reverse. Have you seen people who were, when they were young, in their prolific 20s and 30s, they were very healthy, muscular and well built, and when they become old, they kind of shrink down again because a lot of muscles they lose. You have noticed this in older people?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So growth Even in living things, growth stops after some time, and non-living things can also grow. This tells that it is not a defining characteristic of life, but yes, it's a life process. Everyone clear with this?
Yes.
Now let's go to something which is defining property, because till now whatever we have studied is just a life process, not a defining property. So someone used a term called metabolism. Who used metabolism? I think it was Abhinav. The last answer came.
Yes, sir.
It was you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, metabolism. So why don't you define metabolism for us, Abhinav? Because it's your word. You are the master of the word. So please define metabolism for us.
Metabolism are all the chemical processes which takes place in one's body to maintain the functioning.
Yes. A lot of gray zones are there in your definition. One gray zone is takes place inside the body. Our body has thousands of regions. Where inside the body?
Inside the cell.
Yes, now it's specific. And what functions? What
So
functions?
like examples of the functions.
No, any what kind of functions?
Like breakdown of substances.
For what? Why body is doing all that chemical reaction? Has it gone mad? Like cell, what the cell is thinking? The cell is thinking, okay, today is nothing more to do, so let's just try to figure out some chemical
To
reaction.
sustain itself.
To do what? How? What is the end product? Why do every
Energy.
cell? Exactly. Now you are talking. So everything in biological system, just like everything in our world, has to do with, our world runs on
Energy.
energy. You know, either it's in the form of currency, or it's in the form of, you know, petroleum, or it's in the form of cryptocurrency, or it's in the form of resources or services, but it has to run on energy. So every cell also has to run on energy. So the end goal of metabolism, the whole circus that's going on inside the cell with molecules doing all sorts of things, is to make cell energy sufficient to live, survive, repair, and divide. Okay, so metabolism is basically sum total of all chemical reactions. A good word will be biochemical reactions, but use chemical reactions happening inside the cell. Because cell is the fundamental unit of life. You must have studied this statement in your class 9, 10, right? Now, metabolism is of two types. One is anabolism and one is catabolism. Anyone wants to tell me what is anabolism and catabolism? See, why I engage you in discussions is because either you can be right or you can be wrong. And both of this, because I being a biologist, I've realized it's called reinforced learning. I am reinforcing something on you which will make you remember it for longer. Tell me, anabolism and catabolism. Anyone knows anything about this? No one knows anything about this. Okay. Metabolism is chemical reactions. Chemical reactions you have studied in your chemistry, class 10th, remember? There were different types of chemical reactions. Can anyone name any type of chemical reaction?
Decomposition reaction.
Okay. Decomposition and
Displacement reaction.
displacement and
Combination.
combination. All the reactions you will tell, yeah? Combination reaction. No, it was good. Anyone else? Other kinds of reaction? How many of you believe that physics, chemistry, and biology are different branches of science? Mutually exclusive of each other? what is your take on it? Do you think that physics, chemistry, and biology are different streams of science governed by different rules and different logics? What is your opinion? I'm asking your opinion. See, we are very opinionated people. A 21st century kid is an opinionated kid. So what's your opinion, Nida? If you will not speak, I will pinpoint. Yes, tell me. Do you think physics, chemistry, and biology are mutually exclusive, or
I think
they are
they're
inclusive?
similar in some way,
Okay.
to a point where there is a relationship between each of the subjects with one another.
Okay. So inside a cell, do you think so? Biology is happening for sure because we studied it. We study it in biology section. So we are convinced that yes, inside a cell, lot of biology is happening. Do you think inside a cell, physics is happening?
There's a chemical reaction.
So chemistry will be the next joining link. So if I ask you chemistry, you will say, chemical reaction is happening inside the cell. So yes, chemistry is also happening. I just wrote the sentence here, sum total of all chemical reactions inside a cell, which means yes, chemistry is also happening. But what I'm asking is, do you think that physics is also happening inside a cell? The laws of physics are being followed inside a cell?
Yes.
How? So this is where I'm pushing you to think. This you will not get in any textbook. You have to develop this caliber on your own. How do you think that physics is happening inside a cell? Give me just one example. There are thousands, let me tell you. And when I will start listing it, you all will say, oh yes, yes, I remember this. Yes, it makes sense. So just why not think and you tell me the answer first? Yes, Abhinav. Abhinav is always, yeah. Even
Sir,
just one,
energy,
just one. Just don't exhaust the options for others. Yes.
energy is formed.
Energy is formed. It can be chemistry. I don't. How do you think it's physics? Hardcore physics. Tell me something which is very physics. It's so physics that it's even in the physics. Like even in physics, it comes in higher studies. Something like that.
Okay, sir.
Just convince me that physics is happening inside a cell. If you'll say that energy production, I will just say, oh, it's chemistry. Though you are right, there is physics inside it, but intermingled with chemistry. Tell me something which is pure physics.
Okay, sir.
You have studied physics. Omar, Reba. Hey, don't just switch on and then switch off because I'm taking someone else's name.
Thinking, sir.
Yes, please do that because that is very important in this class. Because I think if you were just to learn NCERT, you will not, come to a platform where you have to take all that pain in the head to discuss with a person who's sitting miles away from you and charging you for that. So if you are here, utilize it. Think. Riva. I cannot believe that you. Yes, Riva, yes, you're talking.
Okay. The motion of cell and the motion of cells.
Motion of?
Cells.
Motion of what?
The motion inside the cell.
Motion inside. What is moving inside the cell? If you say that molecules, I will say again it's chemistry. You are right.
Cell organelles.
Cell organelles move inside the cell. Where do they go? To party? Where is nucleus going inside the cell? See, you all are touching upon it, but you are just beating around the bush. Omar, are you still thinking? And Nida?
Yes, sir.
Good try, Riva. You'll keep thinking till the end of the class, right? So that's my strategy, sir.
No, sir. No, sir. Finding.
Okay. Have you not studied these fancy terms in physics that you have not studied in biology textbooks? There are many. Just tell me one of those fancy terms and say that, see, this is happening inside the cell. This proves that physics is happening inside the cell. It's not tough. Yes, Riva? Okay, I'll give you one hint. Where have you studied the word thermodynamics? Thermodynamics? I'm just giving you words. If someone can use it and give me one answer, in the next class, we will have 3 claps for that person. Okay, it's called a 3 clap.
I saw that. I saw that in chemistry.
Okay, you have not seen it in physics. Okay, the
No.
next one you only must have seen in physics. Electric current.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, everyone is happy. And if I tell you, if I tell you, biology depends on electric current. Without electric current, biology will not function. Who is this? Who is this spoiling the fun by saying just neurons? Is it Abhinav? Is it Omar?
Yes, sir.
So Abhinav is like itching to answer, you know. Let me say. Okay. I discard neurons. You are right. In neurons, electric current is produced. Forget all. Let's forget there is no neuron in the biological
Electrons?
system. Yes, Viva?
Electrons?
Electrons. Yeah, electrons are like there in every atom. But still, that's chemistry. Electric current, you must have studied V is equal to IR in physics, where V is
Yes.
potential difference, I is electric current, R is resistance, and this whole equation comes from Ohm's law, which says that in any conductor, the potential difference is directly proportional to current. Tell me where this is used in biology. None of your hearts beat. Hana? Someone just said, What was that? Have you ever seen in your life or in televisions something like this happening on a screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. I said that when the moment I'll tell you where pure physics is happening inside, everyone will just sink and say yes, sir. So what is this? What is this that we are recording?
Heartbeat.
Heartbeat.
Arre, you know na that it's heartbeat, but what are we recording?
Pulses.
Pulses is just the pulse we have in our blood vessels. That's fine, and we are recording heartbeats. That also fine. But what is this? What is this which actually is being recorded by those? What do we? So this is called a ECG. Anyone can tell me the full form of ECG? It's called electrocardiogram. Okay. The word electro tells that what are we recording? Electric impulses. We are recording electric impulses from an organ which is called heart, which means our heart produces electricity just like a battery, and then it moves through the muscles of heart just like it moves through a conductor, following the same phenomena of potential difference and flow of charges. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Because it's very easy to say it in neurons, because neuron is the first easy answer to say electric current. Neurons. But our heart tissues, how many of you have heard of a term called pacemaker?
I have heard, sir.
Only you have heard? Nida, Omar, Riba, have you heard pacemaker?
No.
Okay. So pacemaker is kind of a small gadget which is transplanted in the heart when people cannot, where people's heart cannot beat on its own. Okay. And we are going to study human physiology, and that chapter is so fascinating, let me tell you, because in human physiology we'll be studying about heart and the circulatory system, and we'll talk about this in detail. But just know for now that physics is a inclusive thing in biology, because our heart works on the concepts of electricity. So in our heart we have tissues, specific special tissues, which after every 0.72 seconds make a electric current in a, and they just keep making it after every 0.72 seconds. They just shy of a second, they just will give you a small pulse. Have you seen people who sometimes die of shock? Like suddenly, if someone dies in a road accident and no vital organ is harmed, that person can be resuscitated, like within the next 15 to 20 minutes, the person is resuscitated by something called CPR. Have you studied? Do you know this word CPR?
Yes.
Okay. Or do you know? Have you seen in movies then when someone falls to the ground suddenly and dies of shock? We use defibrillators to give shock to the heart. Defibrillators. Defibrillators are two electrodes like this, metal. One is connected to positive source, one is to negative source. You put it, you just charge it and place it on the patient's chest, and it will just give a
Shock.
electric shock to the patient. You know what we are trying to do?
Yes.
What we are trying to do? Yes, Omar.
We are
Yes,
we are trying to make him conscious.
How? Why are we giving shock to the person? Are we torturing the person? You died, let me torture you.
No, sir.
No. What? So what we are trying
Sir,
to
we
do?
are giving him a starting impulse from
For
our
what?
side, that his heart starts beating again and the same impulses are released.
Exactly. We are trying to refunction the heart. And if I ask you, where in your life have you seen a similar kind of phenomena in a non-living system? Have you seen someone starting a generator? So generator are, days equipments of the past. Now we all have inverters. But have you seen someone kick starting a generator? Anyone knows how we start a generator?
Yes, sir.
Or how do we start our bikes? Let's forget about generator. How do we start our bikes? Bikes, so we know, right? There is something called spark plug.
Yes.
Purely physics, nothing biology, right? How do spark plugs start bikes? They give a sudden spark, electric shock, which ignites the engine, right? A similar kind of feat we are trying to achieve here when we are trying to give shock to the heart, so that those muscles which just stopped abruptly, they might again start producing electricity, and once heart starts beating, the person will be alive. So this is possible when sometimes people die of accidents and shocks. So within 15 minutes, you can actually resuscitate the heart, because the only reason for death is heart has stopped and the person has died. But the brain has yet not died. When a person dies of shock, every part of the body is not dead. The brain starts dying after a few minutes. when you, because if your heart has stopped and your lungs has stopped breathing, then you will not be able to take in oxygen, right? This is what is happening. But all our cells do have oxygen reserves in them. It's not like if you hold your breath, you will die. You will not die for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You will get subconscious, then unconscious, and even in that unconscious state, you will linger there for some more minutes, and then slightly your brain will slip into coma. And then because of oxygen scarcity, the brain cells will start dying, and that is called a brain death, and then the person dies. So this is how a person dies without oxygen. So you see, it's not a sudden death. So when a person dies because of sudden death, oxygen is there in each and every cell. The brain cells are still alive. So what we need to do is we just need to kickstart the heart like a generator. If it starts, and these defibrillators act like a spark plug, if that starts, everything is there and we can still save the person. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that is one example, and it's very interesting to study heart as a whole. Okay. Now let's come back to what we were sticking to. So all these things you should know, because I have still not started with the chapters and giving you question and answers for your boards. It's still priming you for biology. So we were on growth when we came to metabolism. And in metabolism, I was telling you about there are two types of metabolism, anabolism and catabolism. And just to prime you for that, I told you that there are chemical reactions. And you told me that in chemistry, you have read of decomposition reaction, displacement, and combination reaction. So tell me what happens in decomposition reaction? Anyone? Nida. Let's hear from Nida. Nida, what happens in decomposition reaction? As the word, yes. Decompose.
Yeah, it decomposes the. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, I'll help you. So in a chemical reaction in chemistry, you must have heard that there are reactants and there are products. Left side are reactants and right side are products.
Yeah.
So in a decomposition reaction, what happens is the word decompose means, what does the word decompose means? Nida.
It means, yeah.
Have you seen people making decomposed pits where they just dig in the ground and put?
It means decay or something similar to that.
Yes, right. Perfect. It means decay or breakdown. You know, it's breaking down. We are breaking down intact peels into chemical components which are present in that vegetable peel or that banana peel. So whenever something decays, if an animal is killed and it's left outside to decay, do you remember what happens? First, the muscle starts breaking, the liquid starts oozing out of the body, and slowly everything just liquefies. So that solid shape of the organism liquefies, right? That is how decaying works. Same kind of decaying happens if we have a wound. If we get a wound and a lot of tissues are now destroyed, first what the body does is it decays that dead tissue and removes it as pus. You know, pus formation is decaying of dead and rotten tissues. So when something decays, it breaks down. So in decomposition reaction, one reactant forms two or more products. This is the classic definition that you must have studied, right?
Yes.
So one reaction, reactant, a bigger reactant, will break down into smaller products. That is called decomposition reaction. And decomposition reaction is exactly what catabolism is. Okay. In catabolism, bigger biomolecules break down to form smaller molecules. Okay. And how can remember it? So there is one trick to remember it. It's like, so in catabolism, you have this T, right? Does it look like something which is used to cut something?
Across.
Hey, not a cross. Come on. Don't get religious here. Okay, let me just change the orientation. What does this look like?
A sword.
Yes, a sword. T looks like a sword or a knife, you know. So you always can cut something with that. And catabolism, it starts with cut, you know. So you sometimes write it as catabolism. So catabolism means there are enzymes in your body that cut bigger molecules into smaller molecules. And that's equivalent to decomposition reaction you have studied in chemistry. So in catabolism, bigger reactants form smaller products inside the cell. Now, every one of you know one example of it. Very famous example. Catabolism. Let me give you a hint. Glucose. Huh? No one is giving any answers. Glucose is the hint. Okay. How many of you know this? Respiration. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir.
So what happens in respiration?
Breakdown of glucose to pyruvate.
Exactly. So there is a glucose in a body. So everything that I'm just telling you in brief, we are going to go into details. I'm just connecting the dots for you what we have to study. So glucose is a 6-carbon molecule which breaks down into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule. So as a result, one glucose gives 2 pyruvates. And in this process, oxygen is utilized and energy is released. That's why every cell respires to form energy, use oxygen, and also remove CO2 as a byproduct. Okay. So in this, one bigger molecule is being cut into 2. So this is an example of catabolism in under metabolism. Is it clear to everyone? This is just one example. We will again come back to it. And similarly, anabolism is the making up. So what happens in a combination reaction? Let's go back to Riba. Riba, you gave me these answers. What happens in a combination reaction?
They combine.
Yes, opposite of decomposition, right?
Yes.
Smaller units combine to form a bigger
Okay.
unit, right?
Yes.
And this is exactly what anabolism is. Now, can anyone give me, not anyone, let me ask Omar. Omar, tell me, where do you think in your body anabolism is happening? Even if you don't know the reaction, it's fine. Just tell me, where do you think it's happening? In what context? Your body can't just keep on breaking down everything, right? It is also making up something. That's why your body is growing and getting bigger and bigger day by day. Right, Omar?
Yes.
So where do you think that anabolic reaction is happening?
Cells.
In
Cells.
in cells. Everything is happening in cells. Now come out of cell and tell me where, in what context? Muscles. So when you are growing, what is growing with you? Is it just the skin that is becoming bigger and bigger?
No. Muscles.
Muscles, bones, elongation of bones. And also, when someone gets a fracture, what happens? The bone breaks. Or when you get a cut in your skin or in muscle layer, it breaks. Then what happens? Repair.
Yes.
So to repair something, the way our body repairs itself is exactly the same like you will repair a wall. How will you repair a wall, Omar?
Cement.
Only you will just keep filling cement there.
Yes.
You are going to make a wall out of cement. Just cement. Cement is to keep something in place, to just, join something. But what is the building block of a wall? Don't get misguided by these cement advertisements. This wall is made up of Ambuja cement. No, that wall is made up of bricks. Cement
Yes.
was there to keep those bricks in place and harden it. Right?
Yes, yes.
So cement
Yes.
has its role, but what are you going to use to make the walls? Bricks.
Yes.
Now, why I ask this question is to make you just understand that bricks are always smaller than the wall they make when they combine together, right?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, all our broken muscles and bones, so things which come and then repair it are smaller than the actual structure and size of bone or the muscle. You understand? So in all our repair mechanisms, in repair reactions, anabolism is taking place. And also in the formation of and elongation of muscles, bones, and when you go to gym and do workouts. So what is happening is we are actually making our body do more and more of anabolic reaction, which of course has to be backed up by catabolic reaction. So there has to be a balance. Okay. So we'll study about digestion. And it's a very interesting thing because both anabolism and catabolism takes place in that one process, one physiological process. Now, coming back to the question, let's not come back, it's very hodgepodge. Here only. Do you think metabolism is a life process?
Yes, sir.
Very loud, yes. It is a life process, without a doubt. But is it the defining property of life? The way I have asked this question in a very sarcastic tone with my theatrical skills.
Yes, sir, it is a defining property.
Why?
Sir, because if metabolism isn't there, so we won't even be able to make energy out of glucose, then how will we live?
Exactly. So one thing is, in other simpler words, without being very emotional about it, you could have said that there is not a single living system or a living cell on the planet or in the whole living system which can survive without metabolism. Simple. So if no single living thing can survive without metabolism, then it's the defining property of life. A lot of living systems can survive without growth. A lot of living systems can survive without reproduction. A lot of living systems can survive without actual locomotion or movement, right? But no living system can survive without metabolism. Am I correct? So that's why it's a defining property of life. And the second argument is that metabolism, so metabolism is a sum total of all chemical reactions. So what is the difference between the reaction happening in our cell and the reaction that's the same reaction that happening in a beaker? So if I put glucose in beaker, this is just a thought, this is the last topic that we'll discuss. I will take another 2-3 minutes to prime you with this. And think, if I put glucose in a beaker dissolved in a cytoplasm like material, which is water, and then put enzymes that break down glucose into pyruvate, and as a result I am also getting pyruvate in the beaker, how is this different from respiration or glucose breakdown happening in my cell? Isn't it the same thing? Tell me. Isn't the breakdown of glucose in a beaker same as the breakdown of glucose in our cell? chemically it's same, right? If we
Yes,
go by
sir.
the laws of chemistry, it's same, because even you must have studied in chemistry that, oh no, so you'll study in 11th that there is a rule that the chemical reaction that can happen at one place will happen the same way everywhere in your universe. So the formation of water, where it requires 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atoms of oxygen. If you find water anywhere in the universe, it will be H2O only. There will be no water anywhere which is not H2O, then it will not be water. So it's Lavoisier's law of constant proportions. Have you studied it in your 10th class? I don't think so, right?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
You are going to study it in 11th in your chemistry, Lavoisier's law of constant proportions in chemistry. So according to that law, it's the same. Like you break down glucose in a beaker or you break down glucose in a cell, it's the same. Then why do we say that it's the defining property of life and it does not happen anywhere else apart from living system? What is so special about metabolism that is absent in a beaker reaction?
No energy.
Hmm?
No energy.
No energy. No energy will be produced. There will be heat energy produced in that beaker. The beaker will become warm. So you know that energy is being produced. What is the fundamental difference? When glucose is broken down in a cell, it produces an energy which actually helps a cell. Cell is also a container, like, right? A membrane inside which a liquid is filled. Just like if I take a polythene bag inside which liquid is filled, or I will take a semi-permeable membrane, synthetic, just to mimic the conditions of a cell. If you think that beaker is very different from cell, let's take something which is equivalent to cell. But the speciality of metabolism happening inside a living system is metabolism actually allows a system to behave like living. If metabolism happens inside a cell, the cell, which is suppose sperm, can show movement and can also show other complex behaviors like going and recognizing the ovum. Do you understand this, everyone? Are you on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Whereas the same reaction happening in a beaker or any other counterpart, any other non-living counterpart, which is even like the semi-permeable membrane of the cell, that reaction will only generate heat and nothing else. It will just warm up the beaker, but it will not make the beaker start standing and moving out of your chemistry lab. It's not like if you break down glucose in a beaker, the beaker says, oh, now I am living. Now I'm going to get out of this lab and roam around. But if you break down glucose inside a dog or a cat or a human cell, the organism will say, wow, now I have energy, I have eaten, now I will do processes. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, sir.
So that's why one is just a chemical reaction physically happening. So if a question comes that can we mimic metabolic reactions outside the body in a cell-free environment? Yes, we can. Right? But will it be considered metabolism? No, it will not be. It will just be a chemical reaction of no significance to the system in which it is happening. So metabolism always comes with the significance in the system in which it is happening, which is cell in biological system. Is it clear? Everyone understands that, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. So I'll just go back from the first slide. I'll just give you a recap and we'll tell you what you have to be prepared. So this class will happen every Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. Please don't miss the classes, because then it will be a little harder for me to connect you back. Or even if you miss classes because of any reason, so these classes are recorded. So you can go back, grab the recorded clip, and please watch it before you come to the next class. So Tuesday and Thursday we'll have this class at the same time, 8:30 to 10:30. So we started with biology. Then we went on to define what biology means to each one of you. It was just the introduction. Then the word living came out of it and we started defining what is living. Then we went on to life process, which is actually the beginning of your first chapter. If anyone wants to note down anything or ask any questions, just stop me there on that slide, okay? In which we started with processes which are or are not life processes. And if they are life processes, they are or are not characteristic defining property of life. So movement is not a defining property of life and not a life process. Reproduction is a life process, but again, not a defining property of life. Then, yes, we discussed some other things in between. Then we went to growth. Growth, what is it? It is a life process, but it's not a defining characteristic of life because many non-living things also grow. So what is defining property? The first is metabolism that we have studied in detail here. There are other defining properties which are given in your NCERT and whatever book you refer. Please read about those and revisit the ones that we have already discussed. And then in the next class, we will discuss those. And then I will give you systematic notes and will tell you what are important for you to note down for your board exams. Is it clear? And
Yes,
after
sir.
defining life processes, we will move to diversity. And I'll first talk about the 5 kingdom classification before coming to, so there are something called taxonomic aids in your chapter, which comes in your board exams, like most of the times, like every alternate year, this question from taxonomic aids has come, but we will come to taxonomic aids after covering chapter 2, which is your biological classification. Will it be fine for everyone? Asha, tell me one more thing. How many of you have already started classes in your schools?
Sir, I have started.
So you must be on some other chapter, right? Tell me what.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, but we started with human physiology.
Okay.
So we have to start this chapter right now.
Okay, fine. And anyone else?
Lisa,
Yes, Reba. So you are also on human physiology. What are you studying?
we started from cell.
You start from cell. Okay, so
Yeah.
fine. Not a problem for you. And what about Nida and Omar?
I started with human physiology.
Okay, good. So because sometimes what schools do is in their first test, they quiz you on human physiology. Okay. So I have to plan classes accordingly. And Omar, where are you? In your school classes, because you don't want you to lag in your school classes as well.
Yes, sir.
Where are you in your schools? So have you started with classes of biology?
School right now.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So which chapter are you doing in your school?
Right now, sir, I think I'm doing diversity, sir.
Oh, do they teach you so bad that you don't know the chapter? So you are on your first unit only, right?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine. So we will discuss a plan how to incorporate human physiology before we move further. Okay, because some students have to prepare that also. But for the time being, we'll follow this plan only. We'll start with the fundamentals and we'll go to the biological classification and come back to taxonomic aids. Okay, for the next 2 classes. Fine with everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I see you on Tuesday, same time, 8:30. Please read yourself and remember 3 things. 1, just don't read to remember, read to understand, connect the dots, make a story in your head, whatever you are studying in biology, where I can connect it. Yes, I can connect the starting of a generator with my heart beating. Okay, try to develop this mindset in you when you are reading your textbooks. And second, whatever you note in my classes, just revise before you come to the next class. Okay, so see you on Tuesday, everyone. Take care and stay safe. Anyone has any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Thank you then.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, see you next time.